Well, hello everybody, and thank you for coming. I am very excited to be here with Susan. My name is Diana Gasparoni, and I am the founder of BeWell Psychotherapy. And this is our monthly wellness talk. And Susan Miller, who I am super excited to have on my team, is here tonight to talk about what to do with those wonderful young emerging adults as they graduate and transition back home to hang out with you. So I'm going to give it over to Susan.
Okay, well, thank you, Diana. I really appreciate that warm welcome. And yeah, I am going to, let's see, head over to my slides. Hold on one second. And here we go. There we go. Okay, so your kid is graduating in a pandemic. Now what? Okay, a little bit about me. I graduated from the William Alanson White Institute for Child and Adolescent Training. I received my MSW from NYU, School of Social Work. I have a law degree. I went to University of Pennsylvania. I've worked in a variety of settings, outpatient clinic, private practice, and currently a clinician at BeWell Psychotherapy, very happily. I have experience working out in the field as a trustee at the Riverdale Mental Health Association, as well as a child welfare agency, New Alternatives for Children. I totally am an outdoor person, love to run, hike, cycle, swim, love the New Yorker magazine, and love to lounge by any body of water. And yeah, looking for that puppy, whether to foster or adopt. So happy to take any suggestions. Okay, so parents, congratulations. You have arrived at this moment. Your emerging adult, your young adult is about to graduate from college. It is a seminal milestone for them as well as for you. So you have worked hard, you've sacrificed, you are devoted to your soon-to-be grad's mental, emotional, and social well-being. And this year, as we know, with the coronavirus, and this last year as well, have added several layers of complexity to what your child is going to be doing next, whether they were living at home with you or on campus. I have some suggestions that will assist you as you help them transition to life as a graduate and also as an emerging adult. So I'm using this term, emerging adult. Well, it is a term that was coined by the psychologist Jeffrey Arnett. And emerging adulthood is this period between the ages of 28 and 29. And it's this in-between period where it's the end of adolescence and your soon-to-be graduate is taking on the young adult responsibilities, looking for a stable job, possibly marriage, parenthood. And Arnett describes this betwixt and between stage as one where you're pulling away. So your young adult is pulling away from adolescent struggles and moving toward taking on greater personal responsibilities, all the while making sure still connected with parents and with family. So there's these 5 characteristics which are common to emerging adults. There's identity exploration, where your young adult is trying to figure out who they are. So I'm sure you have that experience, with your graduate. Who am I? What am I interested in? Why am I here? And they're trying to figure out what goes on at work, at school, and with love. Second is instability. So I have no doubt that you've experienced this instability in their early adolescent years where things just kind of go chaotic, right? So if you ask them to do one thing, they're going to do another, constantly challenging. You feel like you want to pull your hair out. Well, the new instability is, as you know, they're off at college, they have dorm arrangements, they're going to apartments, they're back home with you. There are changes in their college courses and also in their majors, new jobs, whether they had jobs in high school and in college, postgrads, whether it's internships, career goals. There's a lot of flux. The third element is the self-focus. And your youngster, well, not so young, but emerging adult, is really examining what kind of romantic partner they're interested in, what kind of romantic partner they want to be with, what kind of career path, and they're looking inward. What is it that I want? They're spending more time reflecting, or basically you're hoping that they spend more time to reflect. And they're able to do it without the constraints of a marriage, without the constraints of children. So it makes a lot of sense for them to be spending this time focusing on themselves. These feelings of in between. So many of these emerging adults, your children, are trying to take responsibility for themselves, but they still don't completely feel like an adult. They're not quite teen and they're not quite adult. So they're off now. They still may need financial support. Certainly they need your emotional support. And particularly with the pandemic, which is just putting another overlay, it's putting things on hold in many regards. For the past year, things have kind of felt stifled. They may have felt stuck. So these in-between feelings are very, very normal. And then there's possibilities. So as they are emerging, optimism is predominant at this stage. And most emerging adults believe that they have a very good chance of doing better, being better than their parents. And I'm sure many of you probably have experienced your graduates saying that to you. Okay, so now you're wondering why your 20-something continues to make these impulsive decisions. And I don't know, Diana, you may want to hop in here. You may have had some experiences yourself at this point. I'm not sure. If you want to bring some things in.
Why? Oh, with the brain not fully formed, that whole thing.
Yes.
Yes, I think that at this stage, what happens is a lot of times we imagine that they are going to come back and act different.
Right.
And they don't. And they're trying to individuate, they're trying to move out, and they're trying to move on in a bigger, more expansive way, but they still are making bad decisions
Yeah.
and making messes, and they're supposed to be. And I think that that's where we really have to find as much empathy and remember, one of the things that I often say to parents, do you remember the decisions that you were making when you were 22? And like the looks on their faces are like, oh, right. And then the wish that their kid won't, their emerging adults, their kid won't make those mistakes. But in fact, we have to allow them to make those mistakes.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And the prefrontal cortex, that's the CEO of your brain, still is developing until your late 20s. And so the prefrontal cortex controls the reasoning, the planning, working memory, organization, attention, modulating mood. So yeah, this is still not fully developed until your late 20s. And it's a point where certainly, as you've experienced, I've experienced, you get your license at 16, 17, 18, right? Take that car out and lots of things have happened, right? So decisions aren't always the best.
No. And and even some of the literature says like 28, 29, 30 for full brain development, and like really actually being able to make an adult decision,
Mm-hmm.
because you are finally moving into adulthood. And if we really think about it and we look back and we like reflect on our own history, we understand it because we know it to be true. And again, we're hoping that
Yeah,
it won't be true for ours.
true. And I think it's important for parents to understand that there are going to be, blips, there are going to be mistakes. And, particularly during the pandemic. So your child is home, you're emerging adult, right? Even I'm, slipping there. So viewing them as this emerging adult is also quite helpful. And seeing that, all right, so they may not make the best mistakes they may not make the best decisions right now and mistakes are going to happen, but it has different consequences, right? So in essence, gee, I'm really hungry. I want to go out and get something to eat. Well, is it safe to go out to get something to eat? Are you wearing your mask? Who are you going to be? Where are you going to go pick up the food? Oh, I think I might just take the car, at 2 a.m. I'm just going to save you money on the Uber. Don't worry about it. So there are going to be those little course corrections that have to be made. Okay, so we've got our 20-something with still a developing prefrontal cortex going on. Mistakes are going to be made. And then we're dealing with the pandemic. We're dealing with the grief. So your college student is home, or they have been home, and so they may be experiencing what's called disenfranchised grief. And this is a term that was coined, I guess, in the late 1980s by a psychologist, Kenneth Doka, who's an expert in bereavement. And it's, he studied grief, and it's not typically recognized. The grief here is those that are unacknowledged and unmourned with rituals. These are the hidden losses and sorrows that are not universally acknowledged by society. And some examples of those are losses of beloved people who are not family members or blood related, such as a romantic partner or an in-law, someone who does not have a legal relationship to the person we lost. Some other kinds of losses and sorrows are the loss of pets, or a loss of job, or job opportunity, the loss of a final college sports season, the loss of an in-person graduation or ceremony, and all the accompanying long anticipated festivities that mark the milestone. So your college grad is going to be feeling quite a number of these losses, and it's real. And what goes along with it may be some depressive symptoms such as loss of sleep, agitation, social isolation, low self-esteem. So this is real. And what may be helpful, it's important to bring these issues up when you notice that your grad is feeling a little bit down, maybe not sleeping as well, right? It could be certainly what's going on with the loss of social contacts that they have, not seeing their friends on a regular basis. And so the research on disenfranchised grief suggests that we should name the loss, acknowledge the loss, and ritualize those losses in order to improve emotional regulation. So for example, reaching out to friends, looking through pictures, putting together albums. And so discussing these losses with your grad is very important because they're seen, they're heard, and you're validating those losses. Also, what might be happening too is, in addition to just, saying goodbye to their classmates, reaching out and encouraging your grad to reach out to those classmates, right? You can have the graduation festivities if it's not on campus. So there are ways, I know Zoom, as we're doing tonight, for example, is a wonderful way to connect. It's not ideal, but certainly it's just one step in maintaining those relationships. Okay, so to the coronavirus. And so there have been increased mental health issues due to the virus. There have been political, social unrest, as we know. So helping your grad, providing them with strategies to identify, to manage, particularly loneliness, self-critical thoughts. And so there have been recent studies, actually through Harvard University, their School of Education, which it's called the Making Caring Common Project. And so they looked at 1,000 adults ranging in age from 18 to 55 years old. And what they found is 43% of young adults, so those between just say 18 and 24, have reported increase in loneliness since the beginning of the pandemic. And backing that up, the CDC did a recent study in October of 2020, and they've cited 63% of 18 to 24-year-olds have been deeply impacted by the pandemic. They've been suffering significant symptoms of anxiety or depression, suicidal ideation, increased substance abuse in order to manage their emotions. And so that's been a real toll And it's not only that age group, but it's also every age group has been affected. But most significantly has been these young adults. So some strategies, is again to identify what it is, what the loneliness is about, to listen, to acknowledge those elements that each of your grads will feel about that loneliness. And so it's important also to build social infrastructures in addition to the physical ones. So there's healthcare systems, there are workplaces, there's religious, there's secular community organizations. Your college, for example, even though you've graduated, they certainly do have different kinds of ways in which your grad can also go back. So there are alumni associations. There are ways, there's the center to help with career placement. So there are ways for your grad to touch base with different types of organizations in order to maintain those social connections. And third is making an effort to commit to a higher goal of common good. And so shifting the focus away from the self, because America is founded on self-determination, on individualism. But in addition to that, there's also a commitment to the social good of the community as well as our nation. And so particularly during the pandemic, there are many different ways in which you can help direct your grad. For example, it could be a neighbor who needs assistance in going to get their vaccination, or to helping actually a neighbor set up a vaccination appointment. There are ways to deliver food if that's still an issue. People you can mentor, you can tutor. So looking beyond the self and toward the social good is an important way in which to connect and to feel good about where that grad is in their life, and to acknowledge the loneliness, but also look to ways in which they can connect outside of themselves. Okay, good topic. So you're at home, your grad is at home, whether it's 1 week to 1 month or a year. It's important to balance expectations, your expectations as well as your young emerging adult. So curfews, chores, family time, drinking, drugs, sleepovers. These are all hot topics, without a doubt. So take curfew, for example. Assume your graduate has spent most of their college experience living on campus. They have been out of your purview for quite a while. It's been 4 years, and they're certainly not accustomed to having a curfew now. But it's your home, and should you restart, continue that practice? Well, that's a good point to explore. What is your comfort level in having your graduates stay out without knowing, or when and where they should be returning, coming home to sleep? Or are you more comfortable with having them check in at a certain point in the evening to give you the courtesy of an approximate arrival time? It's important to remember that respecting each other's needs takes priority over setting a curfew and need for control. So again, respecting each other's needs. And that is a wonderful way in which you, the parent, can model the positive behavior that you'd like to see in your grad. So again, these are lessons that happen all throughout their whole lifetime. For example, you as a parent still modeling. I know that seems, some parents are like, I'm done, I'm so done. Well, when your your emerging adult is back in your home, you still need to model. And at every point, it's important to model. And it's helpful and it's comforting to your graduate as well. So taking the time out to be respectful, to model courtesy by sharing your whereabouts, timing of your home, when you are returning home. You can model that with your partner, with your spouse, with your other children. And so by setting an example is a wonderful way in which you don't have to say a word, but you certainly can just show it by your actions. Chores. What are the expectations? You love that laundry pile, piled high, on the washing machine, or that dirty clothing, which is strewn around the bedroom. You're ready to pull your hair out. So what's your comfort level for that mess? Are you okay with it if it's just relegated to their bedrooms? Or what about the common areas? What's going to happen? Again, another a point, minding courtesy, respecting each other's needs takes precedence. It takes the precedence over control. And it's hard. It's hard having this adjustment of having your grad back in the house when they're accustomed to having so much time to themselves and having autonomy. And again, these are points to have conversations, whether it's a once a week conversation or it's a check-in in the early morning or midday, late day. It's a conversation to be had. Okay, family time. How do you envision the quantity and the quality of family time? What are your expectations for sitting down for family meals, weekdays or weekends? Is it Netflix Sunday, virtual Monopoly with the cousins, grandparents? While the pandemic has offered increased opportunities to have these family experiences, it's also important to remember that your grad is eager to spend time with their friends. So in addition to your grad who may be searching for employment, and focused on their job search, there are demands that they have on their attention, as well as your needs, in order to see them. So again, sitting down, having that conversation, scheduling a weekly meeting, monthly family time to create those meaningful shared experiences. Keeping those lines of communication open and flexible will assist with building stronger family ties. Okay, the issues: drinking, drugs, sleepovers. Okay, so parents, this is your home, and you do need to be comfortable with the expectations you have with your graduate regarding these issues vis-a-vis your own values. So again, it's important to remember to balance the expectations, of your emerging adult with yours. And it's important to have these discussions about your values and what's important to you and about respect. So having empathy, understanding, putting yourself in your graduate shoes, and to help your grad receive the same kind of empathy. So by modeling empathy, it's a way for them to learn how to be empathetic and put themselves in your shoes as well. So having the conversations, and you may have had those conversations, I'm hoping you've had, and if you haven't, certainly this is a good time to talk about the drinking, the drugs, the sleepovers, and what everyone is feeling comfortable with. So I suggest a time, particularly with these very heated conversations, that everyone is of cool minds. So strike when the iron is cool as opposed to when the iron is hot. Just to have those conversations when everyone is in a calmer, cooler place, to initiate these conversations, one or two topics at a time. Slow and steady makes for sustained change. And mostly to really enjoy your emerging graduate. So let's see. And that is the end of the presentation. And so that's the BeWell. And we are done there. Okay, we are back.
Susan, that was great. And I was thinking as you were talking that one of the things as we're talking to the well, I keep saying kids, which is already an issue. But well, because we're looking at them as kids, but they really are
Right.
looking at themselves as adults, is also that it's a really, as you're with them as adults, of course it's popping on my ear. It's a good time to, as you're modeling, it's also a good time to start talking about how the things they're doing in your home actually make you feel, because they've moved back in and you've been without them. So when
Yes.
you were talking about chores and just how you're setting boundaries and what that's going to look like, that well, that's cool for you, that's how you want to do your laundry. I get it, but this is how I do mine, and really showing and if it's there, I mean, it's just like anything, when how it impacts you. Does it make you anxious? Why
Right.
your reaction might be one way when it could just be blissful, especially because you're working yourself into a new routine, and your emerging adult is going to come in and regress and expect you to do all the things that you did for them when
Yes.
they were in high school.
Yeah, and that's an area of conflict, absolutely. And
Yeah.
everyone is just not happy with, they're accustomed to their own routines and doing the things they may want to do it. And, they're accustomed to doing the laundry at 2 in the morning. Well, if it's right next to your bedroom, it's probably not going to work out too well, right?
No.
So, yeah, there's going to be a period of time where it's going to be messy.
Hmm.
And there's going to be a time where, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, but certainly having those conversations again. 2 in the morning may not be the best time to have those conversations. I would,
No.
make it for a little bit later in the morning or maybe afternoon when
Right.
your
Just like
graduate is fully awake.
we're going to talk about this when we're both can be present
Yes.
for the conversation, when we both can be present for the conversation. Yeah, I've done a lot of coaching on this topic with parents myself, so I really
Mhm.
appreciate it and feel like I can always like when you talk about the piles of laundry and I can feel like oh
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, and
that's a one that would get me every
exactly.
time. Well,
Exactly.
I know. And it's an ongoing topic. I think that this is acknowledging the grief and acknowledging the isolation and the loss that
Mhm.
the young person has gone through is really important, and being able to be part of the conversation for them and watching them emerge into being this next, and thinking of also that even though this isn't how either one of you had thought it would happen, that this
Mhm.
is also an opportunity to have an adult relationship with your young person, and which could then foster a longer, more successful adult relationship moving forward, which is something to really like spin it. Like how can we then, we're not going to be best friends, but how can that then encourage a longer, more vibrant relationship for everybody?
Well, I like that reframe and
Mhm.
summarization because it is. It's just a matter of utilizing the opportunity of being together.
Yeah.
So,
And how can we make it work, and how can we make it so that like we leave as friends, not best friends, but like we maintain that level. And I think that that it's not going to be easy, but these are really
mhm.
good tips and really good takeaways. And Susan is available. She is taking patients
Okay.
at BeWell Psychotherapy, so please don't hesitate. You can email contacts at BeWell Psychotherapy. Call us at 646-863-0101, or text BeWell to 484848. Somebody will get back to you. So thank you so much. And we're going to stop here.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
Susan.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Thanks everyone for
Alrighty.
coming.
Yep.
All
Bye
righty.
bye.
Bye-bye.